So now we're going to look at the main route by which you get to an inclusive state from a centralized and pretty nasty looking state. And the main route is pressure from below. Ordinary people see power controlled by the thug at the top and the wealthy around him. They see a widening gap between those rich and themselves, and at some stage they protest. And that pressure forces change in the regime. So what we're going to look at is that process of protest. And protest is made one individual at a time, and individuals differ. And so we can think of a benefits of protest for an individual participant in a protest minus the costs. And we can think of a sequence in which more and more people join the protest. If you think about it, if we get enough people joining the protest will succeed. And it's pretty safe. If you're one of 1 million people in a square protesting, you're safe, right? And the protest will work. So if you can get big enough, there are big net benefits to all this. Right? But it may not always be like that. If you start off, if there's nobody who wants to be first, then there's no protest. And that's true of a lot of dictatorships around the world. They're awful, but they're safely in power. Nobody sticks their head above the parapet and says, "Emperor, you've no clothes." So it takes somebody with some courage to be the first. And maybe that person has a real grievance. Maybe one of their relatives has been killed by this guy. And so they're deeply angry. So never mind the costs, they are going to be there on the square protesting. Of course, if there are only one, we know what's going to happen. Because number one has joined in the protest, number two, maybe number two wouldn't be there except that number one's there. But number two says, okay, I can see number one, I'm not leaving him on his own. He's right, I've got the guts to go and join him. There's still some positive benefits. It's risky, I know I'll suffer probably, but I want to stand up, solidarity. And then we get to number three. And number three is, he's the third most likely person to join this protest in the whole of the society, but actually he's a bit of a chicken. And he looks at number one and number two standing there in the square with their placards, and he sees the policeman coming. And he thinks, shall I, shan't I? And he thinks, better not. The benefits are lower than the cost to me. I've got to suffer too much from joining that protest. And so he doesn't. Now maybe if he joined, then guy 4, looking at 3 people in the square, says, oh, this is a real protest. It's not just a couple of nutters. I'll join. And so 4 would have been positive. That makes it safer for number 5, makes it safer for number 6, safer for number 7, and by 8, we're all there in the square, millions of us. Right? Does this protest succeed? Absolutely not, because the protest has to roll up. And this process stops there. There's just the 2 guys in the square. And the police come and you know what happens. So whether or not we get a protest depends upon each guy staying with a net benefit from protesting, so that the protest does indeed keep rolling up. More and more people come to the protest until it gets too big for the state to handle.